Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is a workshop that we did last year just for our staff. Internally, it was so much fun. So I'm really excited to open this up to everyone else. This workshop is going to be a little bit different than usual because it's requiring some participation from you. Usually, our workshops are like a 10-15 minute spiel, and then we open it up for questions at the end. But this time, it'll be you'll kind of allow yourself time to pause and be able to work on stuff for yourself. So this is something that you can come back to and be able to work on your own time. And of course, you'll have access to all these materials. So we are just going to dive in. So for starters, for some context, this is something that I feel like a lot of people, the concept of New Year's resolutions has changed a lot, and we want to get realistic with it. So in today's workshop, we're going to go through finding your mantra. We're going to be building some mood boards, some vision boards, and then translating all of that into some goals for your next year, and then an actual strategy on how to actually accomplish those goals. So first thing first is figuring out your mantra. For context, my word for next year is going to be elevate. Your mantra is something that is just a phrase or mindset that you can turn to throughout, the year to help you stay aligned with your goals and visualization. So it doesn't need to be super deep. It could literally be fuck it, we ball. It could be a phrase, be a word, literally could be anything. It could be an inside joke with your friends, do it for the bit, like any of those, do it for the plot, like all of those are in their way mantras, or of course you can get deep with it. So this is going to be kind of your step one on how you're envisioning your 2024 to look. Like I said, my word is elevate, and I feel like it's because I'm in like a good place in a lot of areas of my life because I've done this workshop before for last year, and now I'm ready to just like kind of take everything up a notch. So for those that are watching at home, pause, take a second to work on your mantra. And I'm going, for editing purposes, since we're doing this live, I'm going to cut out this part. So we'll have some sharing time at the end. But yeah, this is your time to work on your mantra. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you went and did some brainstorming and you could have just put down a bunch of ideas. You don't need to commit to anything yet. But yeah, next is your mood and vision board. This is the fun part. This is the visual part. I love doing this I love pulling images in Pinterest and then putting it together in Google Slides or Keynote. I will show you my example right after this. But this is the part where you're kind of gathering images of what you'd like to envision your 2024 to be like. It could be everything from places you want to go, style you want to wear, food you want to eat, like hobbies you want to pick up, literally anything. And my hot tip there, for those that aren't as familiar with Pinterest, you could type in literally everything, anything, space, aesthetic, and Pinterest will have great imagery for you. You can make your mood boards within Pinterest, or like I said, export them out of it. I'll show an example, but one of my like sections on my mood board is finance, and I literally type in like woman finance aesthetic, and all these cool pictures came up. So I also included this year the potential to include TikToks. I don't know, I feel like sometimes I see a lot of like cool TikTok mood boards and stuff like that. So if you're wanting to link out to some TikToks that might inspire, if you want to make your own like saved collection on TikTok that inspire you, as long as it's handy for you to access, go for it. You can break your board into categories or one mass thing. I honestly do recommend breaking it into categories, everything from like career, wellness, personal, love, like anything in between. You can do like home, like when I was last year when I was moving into or I'd moved and I was like in a new apartment, I had a whole mood board for how I wanted like my place to look and stuff like that. So you could have it be as specific or as broad. And I'm going to show my example after this, but you also have the option to kind of have this deck be your place where you also have your goals and habits as well as the mood board for it. So I'm going to show that example. We're getting personal here. I'm sharing mine. So mine I have kind of envisioned, let me do full screen. Mine I have as like one mass board, and then you'll see I have my key goals, which we'll go into this later. And then I have a mood board for each section, but then I do have a slide for my goals and habits, which once again, we'll get to later. But here's how I have mine broken out. As you can see, super straightforward. Like it's not like I spent hours putting together. Here's the hot girl woman finance aesthetic I was talking about. And super straightforward. So now's your time, pause, work on, let's do one category. Here we go. Yeah, pause this. How's your time to work on the backbone of one of your boards? You saw my example. You don't need to have 70,000 images, just a handful to get that backbone. So pause, and then you can come back to this. Okay, welcome back. Now you have your mood board ready, you have your mantra. Let's talk about kind of your goals and your strategy on how to achieve that. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like New Year's resolutions have kind of evolved to people thinking, how can I take a stab at this to make this realistic? Like you come up with 10 resolutions for the year, and then by like February, it's gone. So a huge part of it is setting your foundation, which if you're watching this and you're planning this, you're doing step one, which is a lot of visualizing and planning. I think what happens is come January 1st, people will come up with a bunch of ideas, and of course, it's not going to stick. You want to be intentional. So starting about a month ago, I started writing down all these kind of ideas and goals and plans I had for 2024. And through this process, I was able to translate that into actionable items. So it's not something that I came up with on the fly, it's stuff I've been thinking about. And then using, whenever you're watching this until whenever to visualize, like I think that's a huge part of it. So the visualizing and planning, what you're doing now, is awesome. And then finding that balance of considering the big picture and being realistic. I think people often set themselves for failure by picking huge goals, which is awesome, but not breaking them down into like smaller pieces. So, an easy example would be like if you are someone that has never ran before in your life and your goal is to get into running. So let's say you pick run a marathon as your goal for 2024. You kind of gotta like back it up. So that was something you want to be able to break down into starting off maybe running 10 minutes a day, running a mile a day, running X amount a week, month, or whatever, to get you to that big picture. So yes, dream big, but then figure out a way to translate it into smaller pieces, which are realistic, so that come 4 months into the year, if you haven't even made a dent on this goal, you don't feel like you have to totally throw it away. So your turn. Pause this, take a chance to brainstorm a variety of goals. Everything can be from personal to career. And I guess I'll just show you mine right away, actually. We're going to go back to my presentation that I showed you. We're getting personal, and I'll show you some of my goals. So as I mentioned, I have it as some big picture goals, and then I broke it into some categories. So these are all, kind of one-stop shop goals rather than habits. So everything from volunteer service to make a project, want to get into making music, stuff like that. But then when I break it down into each category, I also have habits. So this is for my wellness board. So I have everything from, specific, these are items I could kind of like check off, like attend a wellness retreat, get back to my meditation practice. Well, I guess it's more of a habit, but look into classes at this like wellness center, all that stuff. And I also have my habits, which don't judge me. I also put some that I want to continue that I worked on this past year, and some things I want to practice in the new year. Here's some career ones. I want to make a certain amount of money, but attend X amount of conferences, stuff like that. And then habits. So I kind of have it broken down into each section. Finances, you can totally copy this template where it's like build my savings to this amount, pay off this card. Like I'm real adult here, open up a Roth IRA, like have this much in high yield savings amount, like stuff like that. Which the next part we will talk about is getting into how to turn it into action items. So pause this, go do your goals. Okay, you can share with yourself or whoever. Okay, so action plans. Like I mentioned, breaking your goals into bite-sized action items and steps. And the way I'm going to recommend you do this is utilizing a project management system or your calendar. I use ClickUp. I'm a project manager at my day job, but I also use it for my personal life. So you can use any sort of project management tool. I recommend ClickUp, but you could also just use your calendar or notes or a planner, however you figure out your agenda for the day, week, month, whatever. And basically translating all of what you went through into action items. So let's say one of your goals was to make a photo book. You got to kind of go step one. You're going to do the content, you're going to have to make it, you're going to have to go through all of these phases. So what I would do if your goal was to make a photo book, I would set up a reoccurring task in your product management system, your calendar, your agenda, whatever, maybe every other week, book a photo shoot. And I would set that up for maybe all of the first quarter, for a few months, however long you think it will take you to get the content that you want for that photo book. And then after that, once you have your content, I would put in the task for April, someday in April to map out the backbone of the design and go through all those steps. Once again, I'm gonna get real vulnerable here and I'll share my personal ClickUp. I just show my, I hope I'm sharing this. Let's see. Yes. So like I said, like I basically translated all of my little action goals into items. This also includes some of my personal things, some of my career things, all that stuff. And it has everything from like looking into certain things to contacting people, scheduling a photo shoot for some of these goals, literally translated everything into an action item. So wrapping up, I know we've done like a quick run through this, but hopefully you've been able to pause and work on this. Just some final tips, like I just said, translating them to action items. I think that is the biggest thing. If you wrote a list of 12 goals for the year, some are probably really small, some are maybe habits. Now is your time to go through and actually translate that into action items. And I set the photo book example, I gave the running example. Like every big task you have can be translated into a smaller action item. If it's about building habits, break down those habits. If it's a one-off task, put it in your calendar. If one of your goals is to take a yoga class, book the yoga class. Or if one of your goals is something that you won't be able to achieve till much later in the year, put it in your calendar now, like a month prior, like look into taking this class or look into booking this trip or something like that. Set yourself up for success. But the part two of that is, check in with yourself each quarter, like adjust as needed and don't expect yourself to want the same things you want now. It's December 2023. Hopefully things change between now and July. Totally just as needed. It's cool when I was looking at I did all of this for 2023. I did the exact same process. And obviously when I was working on my 2024 deck, I was looking at this previous year one, and it was so cool to see like, A, how many things I did achieve because I checked it off and, set myself for success. But B, for the things that I didn't accomplish, it's because I maybe wasn't as interested in it, or I just lost touch of that, or the goal evolved. So definitely allow yourself to check in. As you probably saw in my ClickUp, I literally have a task for end of March, quarterly check in, just like a quarterly check in with myself with those goals and adjusting as needed. You don't want to set yourself up for failure with if you had a big action item and by the end of March you feel like you haven't even made a dent. Like that's okay. Like that doesn't need to mean you abandon it. You can change it. Just be patient with yourself and allow flexibility. Life happens. And I think that's my final presentation. As always, you're welcome to reach out to Luna on Instagram, email, whatever. And I hope that this is helpful in any regard. Cool. Thanks, y'all.